everyone. This is Tonya, your girl from Freedom at the Crossroads. And yes, still helping women everywhere look better, feel better without the pressure. Welcome to my kitchen today. I am one of those people who loves herbs and spices, anything that you can add to your meals to boost the health benefits. So, what happened over these last couple of months? I've been reevaluating some things from my channel. Thank you for those of you who stuck with me, follow my few little people in my community, in my YouTube channel family. Thank you everyone for, staying the course with me. A lot has happened so far. As all of you are aware, with the COVID-19 thing going on and all these social justice movements that have sprang up all over the world, things have just been a little hectic. But I'm coming back renewed and in touch here. And my mantra for the rest of this season is resilience, resilience, resilience. And for those of you who've been following my channel, who follow me on Instagram, I am a women's fit lifestyle coach and empowerment speaker. And in my free time, I'm always looking for ways to amp up the benefits of whatever I put in my body. Those of you who follow me, you know that I am someone who truly believes in, food being your medicine. And so, with that in mind, I've talked about a lot of herbs and spices, things like turmeric, their anti-inflammatory abilities and nourishing abilities and things of that nature. Well, more along that line, as you can see, I've got some potted herb here. This is actually my rosemary that I am going to repot in my container garden because I have found awesome ways to be creative and to commune with nature without actually being at, say, like a national park and all of that. It was a real challenge as a healthcare worker finding time to self-care, but I had to stay the course. I had to commit to it because it was literally a matter of life and death, and still is. This is a time when we really need to amp up our nutrient intake. We need to really, 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 retune and reconnect with who we are, our bodies, and all of that, in order to, support our immune systems and also to support our mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health overall. And I have found some powerful tools for doing that. Not that I didn't use them before, but they become even more important at a time like this. So today I am featuring one of my fun recipes and I have amped it up. It's not too complicated. These days, especially when it gets hot, I don't like to eat a lot of heavy foods. I feel like my system has a better way of using nutrients I take into the body when I don't overload it with heavy, super heavy foods. And so with that in mind, I've been playing around with noodles and Asian stir fries and whatnots. And so I've done my take on a lot of the Asian stir fries. When you check out the video on either end of this clip, you'll see my final product, which was my awesome yakisobe noodle stir fry. And what I have in that is on the nutrient side, I've got both animal and plant protein. And I used the plant protein is the soy, the animal protein is actually fish. And I don't eat a lot of meat or, four-legged animals, so to speak, anyway, because I feel like that kind of animal protein is just entirely too heavy, especially for this season. My body responds better to a vegetarian stroke, seafood based diet with lots of fresh veggies and things of that nature. I also have my smoothie challenge going on throughout this season. I started that a couple of weeks ago on Instagram, and it's just to encourage us to remember to feed our bodies with nutrient rich food, fruits and veggies that can support our immune system, help our adrenal system, and all of that. So back to what I was talking about. I've got herbs, rosemary. I didn't use it in this dish because typically you don't find rosemary in a lot of Asian dishes. But I do have here chopped green onion, parsley, as well as some broccoli. Now, the reason I included these items in my dish, they also have awesome health benefits. Remember, back to my whole, notion of food is medicine. Well, green onions and parsley are awesome, 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 awesome sources of vitamin K, vitamin C, vitamin A as well, and helps support your cardiovascular system as well as your bone health. And for us women, that is super important. There are a lot of instances where women, as we get older, we tend to lose our bone density. So adding this all the time as much as possible, or veggies with this kind of profile to your cooking anyway, amps up your nutrient content and helps to protect your body, protect your bones, protect your cardiovascular system. They also help with blood pressure, blood sugar. So there's a lot of goodness just in things like, green onions and parsley. Broccoli, awesome source of fiber and vitamin K. I incorporated that into my dish as well. Also, mushrooms. Now, I know some people don't like mushrooms. I love mushrooms. When I was a kid, hated them. But as I became an adult, I played around with a number of recipes and flavors. And when I incorporate that with spices, oh my gosh, the beauty of using spices to work in concert with the food that you use and that you take into your body does awesome things. Now, all of these veggies that I have mentioned, including the mushroom, they all have antioxidant and anti-cancer fighting properties. Boom! Yes, people. Yes, 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 yes. Talk about food as medicine. Going forward, speaking of which, going forward, I am going to be adding another page to my website called the Herby Home Chef. And that is because I just had a realization as a couple of weeks went by, talking to coworkers and everything, and people asking me for recipes to help, support their immune system, especially for those of us who work in on the front lines, who work in healthcare, or you're an essential worker. Yes, a lot is going on around the world. Case in point with the civil rights and our social justice movement that just sparked all over the world as a result of the murder of George Floyd. That aside, we are in stressful times. A lot of people are super stressed out. They're stressed financially, emotionally. We're all stressed and feeling the pressure of, dealing with a global pandemic. And so, I've always been one of those people that wanted, saw food as medicine. That's how it was, taught to me. And that's how I've grown working in healthcare and seeing the outcomes of what happens when you don't self-care. Oh my gosh, I could go on and on and on about that. But long story short, I started playing around with recipes because one, I am not a pill popper. You do need to supplement your food simply because the soil here in the West is so nutrient deficient that a lot of our plants, and that's why one of the reasons too I really push organic and local farmed foods, because they tend to have a higher nutrient content. Now, having said that, I try to, for the most part, incorporate those spices and antioxidants that boost the nutrient content of the food I'm taking in, of whatever food I'm taking in. And that's not to say, I eat strictly healthy all the time. Sometimes I crave stuff and I, cater to those cravings. But for the most part, you have to treat your food as medicine. It's part of your self-care. It's part of your self-nourishing. It works on your mind, body, spirit. Remember, whatever is going on with you chemically does affect your mental health. So that's why I started a recent page on Freedom at the Crossroads. .com, where I am talking about using foods in concert with different herbs and spices in order to boost the nutrient content and things like antioxidants and all of that. So I'm going to be playing around with that. I'm going to be playing around with a lot of ethnic foods, particularly foods from my part of the world, Nigeria and West Africa, and some other dishes as well. I'll also be featuring some dishes that I have fused. Case in point, I did have like the Thai pho. I have played around with that. Is it Thai or Vietnamese? One or the other. Correct me if I'm wrong, people, but it's a popular dish. Everybody is fanning over it. It's called pho. And it's essentially broth with noodles and fresh herbs and spices. And it's usually a broth that's beef, has like a beef bone broth, but I switch it up from time to time and use a vegetable based one or chicken or fish. You can do that, but typically, traditionally, it's beef broth or beef bone broth. It takes a number of hours to actually prepare that dish. I created my fusion version of it, which is the DIY version of it that suits my African taste, but I cut down on the prep time and the cook time as well, and there are good ways to do that. There's some quick and dirty your little tips you can use to do that. But back to this dish in point, I've got my veggies, and I like to get as much as possible fresh fruits and veggies. These are fresh. This is fresh broccoli, organic, locally sourced, and it's already been pre-washed and pre-cut. However, I don't do that all the time. I just buy that sometimes to cut on the prep time. However, even if it is organic, even when it is locally grown, you still have to clean your fruits and vegetables. You have to wash them. I make my own DIY, my own fruits and veggie washes using just regular distilled vinegar, very cheap and easy, as well as table salt included in that. I cook with a lot of sea salt as well. I also use soy sauce for this dish in combination with sesame seed oil, just to make sure I get that flavor, that familiar flavor of Asian cooking. So that's what I did. And of course, I've got my organic mushrooms. I love mushrooms. Like I said, they are awesome in flavor. When you know how to cook them, you will love them. Shiitake mushrooms. These are mini bellas, portobello mushrooms. They're one of the top ranking in terms of nutrient content, so that's why I got those. They have cancer fighting properties. Everything I've highlighted here, including the spices. I love curry. I love curry because it has a lot of the antioxidant ingredients in there. Turmeric, allspice, things of that nature that help and work in concert with the actual foods to give you the maximum output in terms of nutrition and, by extension, protection for your body. So yeah, so let's enjoy this. I'm going to show you what I've prepared. Just follow the video. Give me your feedback. Give me some tips and tricks as well. All of you know I love my curry, but I love my turmeric as well. It's awesome to use, like I said before. But these are just some of the simple things that you can do to boost your nutrient content, and not just in nutrients, but in flavor and texture. It does, oh my gosh, it really creates an experience when you have well seasoned foods and you're not using a lot of salt. That's another thing. Using more salt, using more spices and herbs helps you cut down on salt as well. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Mrs. Dash, which is a combination of various herbs and spices that are used to season food, and a lot of people that have issues with blood pressure and salt content and things like that use Mrs. Dash. But I also have a recipe to DIY your own Mrs. Dash. Boom. Yes. So stay tuned, people. Thank you for tuning in to me and listening to me talk about my favorite recipe and my delicious herbs. I will be repotting this rosemary shortly. As soon as it gets a little bit cooler. As I got back from work a little late because I was listening to some podcast and the news, catching up on what's going on here in the Chi-Town. And it's a little warm out there, and you don't really want to do things like repotting of plants and herbs when the temperature is when it's hot, when it's super hot. You usually want to do that in the morning when it's before the sun really, the intensity really gets up in there. So I usually like to repot my plants either early in the morning or late afternoon once the intensity of the sun has died down. That's what I do. Anybody else got tips for repotting their plants and herbs? But really, really, really tune in, hone in on body, hone in on taking care of yourself, hone in on making those necessary, mindful, intentional connections with your food. And once you do that, you create a kind of energy that feeds your body, feeds your spirit, feeds your mind. Even through the process, I can't tell you how mood boosting it is when you do your own cooking, when you connect with the herbs, the fresh herbs and spices that you use to infuse your food with nourishment, but also medicine. So this is Tony from Freedom at the Crossroads, ladies, helping you look better, feel better without the pressure. Please follow my channel. Click the button for my latest videos coming out. I know how you have been absent for a while. Like I said, I thank you once again for staying the course with me, but here on out, expect to see a lot more videos coming out, and click that subscribe and follow button so you will get notified of when I drop another video for you guys. So you have an awesome time. Thank you. And in camera.